Hey guys, I'm back here with another review. Uh, the album I'm going to be covering this time is Twin Fantasy by Car Seat Headrest, which is an indie staple, kind of the bastion of the sad emo rock genre. This is just sort of something that everyone can point to and go, that one there inspired me, just because it's like the dark side of the moon of indie rock, really. And it's also got a lot of appeal to the LGBTQ community as well, because of how open Will Toledo is about his sexuality throughout the album. And rather than focusing on, like most people do, the societal implications of that, he focuses on, the actual semantics of his individual relationships. The entire album with Twin Fantasy revolves around the relationship that he has with Kate Wirtz, who currently manages quite a few like web comics online. I'm not too familiar with those, but that's what I know about her. He started on Bandcamp in the early 2010s, maybe a little bit before that. The original Twin Fantasy came out like shortly after that. I'm just gonna go through this track by track and then give my overall review at the end. So, first song, My Boy. I think this is one of the many examples on this album where the new one does a lot to not necessarily fix, but improve upon the old one. The new My Boy contains a lot better vocal harmonies and just feels so much more polished and well produced, like most songs on the album do. And it just feels more than anything like a leg up from any of Toledo's previous work, including Teens of Style and his other critically acclaimed albums. However, this song does have a few shortcomings that make it difficult to listen to, just like on an average day outside of the context of the album. It's not really that great of just like it's not a song you would just play in the car generally. The lyrics are pretty repetitive. It's just like the same verse over and over again. That being said, it does lead into the rest of the album extremely well. And on to the second track, Beach Life and Death, which I personally think is the best Car Seat Headrest song and one of the best songs in this genre, bar none. Over the course of Beach Life and Death, which is a 13-minute emotional roller coaster, Toledo pulls the listener in so many different directions that on a first listen, it's hard to pick all of them up. Basically, everyone I talked to didn't like the song on their first listen, just, each section is about 2.5 minutes, and when the song you're listening to is changing segments every 2.5 minutes, but expects you to follow along with that. I get how that might be a little off-putting. But if you're listening to it within the context of, okay, I'm going to sit down and listen to this whole album for the next hour or so, I feel like that makes for a lot better experience because that's what I did. I think the song is genius. I think this is absolutely amazing, absolutely brilliant to listen to, sing along with. The lyrics are, even though they're so specific and autobiographical to Will Toledo's life, they're, everyone can apply a little bit something of their own lives to what Toledo is talking about. And I feel like that's really, really big for a piece of music to be able to accomplish. And not only does he do it with this song, he does it with basically every other song on the album. With this song starting his use of that visceral language and that kind of universal, like, sadness, I guess, that he employs extremely well here. The guitar work is absolutely phenomenal, and overall, it's just a really good song. Especially that ending verse. That ending verse will be stuck in my head until the end of time, where he's just saying the ocean was to, you know, extremely good, very good song. Next song, "Stop Smoking," which is an acoustic ballad akin to some of his NPR Tiny Desk concerts that he has done occasionally, both before and since this. Stop Smoking is a song that kind of subverts a lot of the expectations that you have of this being like a teenage angst album, because he's directly going against something that a lot of rebellious teenagers do, and recognizing that some of the things that you have such urges and peer pressure to do at this age are going to have a lot of consequences. And directly saying to presumably his partner at the time, stop smoking because we don't want you to die. If a little bit of an odd lead in from Beach Life and Death, I think everything else it has going for it is pretty positive. Next up, we've got Sober to Death, which right next to Cute Thing are some of the most popular car seat headrest songs, some of the most well known. Even people who aren't well versed in car seat headrest but are into the like indie rock scene will probably have heard these. Spotify throws both of these all over their playlist that they create for people and all over their just indie genre stuff all the time. I've had this recommended to me countless occasions. That's not to say it's bad at all, though. I think it's definitely one of the top five on the album for me. It's got really good lyricism. It's got really visceral lyricism. Like you can almost feel what he's feeling when he's like say arguing with his partner, but not in a way that where he's arguing directly against them. He's arguing with them in the sense of I don't like what's happening to you right now. And that's not really a sentiment that you see a lot in a lot of music these days, even indie music, which a lot of it is about love and betrayal and the individual semantics of relationships and how those can end in awful ways. You just don't really see sentiments like this where it's like what is happening to you right now makes me really sad, you know? And it's just a really beautiful song that is only bettered by this remaster of it. Absolutely genius track, and the whole time with drugs is in pretty good contrast with the song before it, Stop Smoking. So, very good song. Next, we have Nervous Young Inhumans, which goes slept on a lot of the time. I slept on it my first however long listening to the album. I didn't really like this song as much as all of the others, but it's pretty good. It's pretty musical in its own right. I can bump this in the car. I can bump this with the rest of the album when I'm crying at 3 in the morning. It's really good. It's a really versatile song. Guitar work, really good. Some of Toledo's like best songwriting, best lyrics, just on this album anyway, and that makes it an extremely listenable track, and it goes well with the theme of the album as well. Next song is Bodies. Bodies is centered around a single electric guitar riff that just kind of plays in the background for around 90% of the song. I'm pretty split on the lyricism here, especially the I'm sick of meaning part. What this is obviously parodying is like long distance relationships or relationships where you're primarily talking over physical affection, and that can be really difficult for someone if their primary method of showing affection is physical touch. But the rest of the lyrics on the track absolutely make up for some of its shortcomings, especially there's no devil on one shoulder and angel on the other. They're just two normal people. Even though I can't tell you exactly what that means, that is one of the best lines on the whole album. That's I don't know, man. There's something about it. There's something about it that just clicks, that just makes you remember that super memorable line. Um, I don't know. It's just really good. The chorus is really good, especially the "those are you got some nice shoulders" line. I didn't know that that was the actual lyric. I thought that I was just mishearing it this whole time, and then I looked it up, and no, that's the actual lyric, and that's pretty funny. It really makes you imagine, how the protagonist of this album or Toledo himself like interacts with people on the daily. Probably a little socially awkward. Probably a little out there sometimes. I like the theme of this song a lot. It's really good. Next song, Cute Thing, probably my second favorite off of the album. Obviously, second only to Beach Life and Death. I just like the part where I just like the bridge part, or I don't know if it's necessarily the bridge, but the part where he says he died in an explosion. I just really like the guitar turnaround there and the lyrical turnaround there, and how that transitions into the a guitar and harmony call and response section later in the song. If the average person who I can't really like just show a 13-minute song like Beach Life and Death to, this would probably be my first choice of like I want you to show me as much as you can about like the power of this album in just one song. I would probably show them this one. Even though it is also a bit on the long side, 6 minutes, it feels like it's maybe a minute long. Absolutely amazing. Will Toledo, you done it again, even though this was like 6 years ago. Really impressive work. I can't really say the same thing about High to Death. I know that there's like a lot of High to Death like fans of just this specific song over the whole rest of the album, and I don't really get that like at all. It's good in context with the rest of the album, but it's not great on its own. Um, really, without the context of the rest of the album, it's just kind of eh. I would not listen to this on the average day. I would not throw this on in the car. This is probably would be my last choice if someone were to ask me to recommend them a song off this album. Really, the only couple positives it has is that it's got an interesting musical composition. If not impressive, it's at least interesting, and that it's got a good tie-in with High to Death, or with Sober to Death from early on the album. The next song, Famous Prophets, is another Will Toledo 10 plus minute song classic um, that kind of just throws you for a loop, where it feels like, I can say this because Will Toledo cites Radiohead as one of his influences. Don't at me. It seems like he's doing a bit of a parody on Fit or Happier, where he's having a bit of an unsettling background music play while he gives a monologue, which transitions into the later, a bigger monologue throughout the rest of the song. The music on this one is about on par or maybe a little bit less boisterous than the rest of the album. This one's more of a mellow one, but when you're in the right mood for it, this song can really hit you. Famous Prophets has at some points been my favorite song off of the album, has competed with Beach Life and Death. I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for long songs, but this one is really good. This one has really good lyricism. I know I've already said that about all the rest of them, but I can't recommend this Beach Life and Death, Sober to Death, and Cute Thing enough, like at all. If anyone hasn't heard these songs, what the hell are you doing? Like, get on this. Like, come on, man. And moving on to round out the video with the final song, Those Boys. Um, I honestly don't really have anything to say about this that I didn't already say about the first one. It's a good closer. It ties everything together very well. Toledo definitely knew what he was doing when he wrote the first one and this one when he was, 17 years old, which is absolutely wild. I cannot imagine making this at such a young age and being talented enough to even write some of the lyrics off of this song and every single other one. It's just some actual genius. Like if you were to ask me who the Albert Einstein of indie songwriting and like love songwriting is, I would tell you Will Toledo. I would tell you to look up some of Will Toledo's stuff. Just because like in composition and lyricism and basically everything this album does, it does right. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a masterwork. It will always be a masterpiece, in my opinion. I have no idea how you would ever even top this. Like the fact that you even made this, if you came out with something better later on, I don't think I'd be able to accept that it was actually better just because of how powerful this one is. And just one last thing to say about the album artwork. For coming up with that at age 17, I know it was a joint collaboration with Kate Wirtz, um, is pretty cool. Like it's an extremely memorable album cover um, for how simplistic it is. It's part of that simplicity that ties in with the name of the album, which is Twin Fantasy. That's meant to reflect Will Toledo wanting to be in a relationship with someone or be associated with someone who has so much in common with himself that he can see traits of himself in that person that he didn't know he had himself. And I think that is so like deep and profound and just something that you like no one else can really achieve through their music, through their conceptualization, through the lyrics of the album, even through like telling people what it means afterwards. I don't know. It's just genius. I will always come back to this album. It's so boisterous, it's so impressive, and it's pretty obvious to see why. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review. I would give this album a 99.5 out of 100. Um, Maybe eventually it'll get that extra point 0.5 point whenever I hear a note that I didn't know was on one of the songs, and that'll do that little extra bit. But for now, it's just shy of an 100 out of 100. Um, Let me know what I should review next and I will see you guys in the next one.